Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to be looking more of Text Talks Battletech, specifically the Amaris Civil War Part 2. Right now, we've reached the point where Kerensky, realizing the tactical situation he's in, cannot attack Terra directly. So he's going to go fuck up everything Amaris. I was going to say holds dear, but I actually don't think he can feel those emotions. Let's go everything he holds where his bank account is. Yeah, that's probably accurate. And I am looking forward to this because before we saw Amaris being a kind of inglorious bastard. I say kind of because he's also just being a regular bastard. You know, bastardizations for everyone. Now, I really hope we get to see Kerensky do it because he is a fan favorite from every single person I've ever talked to. People have divisive opinions on a lot of characters. Not Kerensky. I've never heard a bad thing about him other than his parenting. Other than that, I think people just love him unanimously. So we're going to jump right in, see where this goes, and hopefully see a lot of explosions. I'm really hoping we get another Scottish kilt moment, if you know what I mean. Bagpipes, man, bagpipes. Will it? I don't know. Can I hope? Yeah. Will it actually happen later on? I've been told it's not impossible, and it may or may not come up either in this video or some later one, but I don't actually know when. Yeah. So again, you know the deal. Link below, original video, hit up. And when you're done, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get started. Part 2, Blitzkrieg.
Kerensky decided that if Amaris would occupy his home, then Kerensky could burn Amaris's down. Well,
I mean, makes sense. He already moved on.
More or less. There were strategic considerations for this. Kerensky rarely acted out of emotion, so this wasn't just done out of pure spite or want to exact revenge. This wasn't ego-driven, but a more calculated response. Kerensky refused to fall for Amaris's trap and instead opted.
I mean, on the one hand, it makes sense to go after the one faction that you absolutely know no one is going to rise a fuss about. Like any of the Inner Sphere houses, they're staying on the sideline because, you know, both parties technically could absolutely fuck them up, but also they could raise a lot of problems. But there's not a single one of them that's going to complain if, you know, the two factions who are actively fighting each other actively fight each other out of the way, which would be Amaris' homeland. How they're going to get there, though, because, you think travel of this large of a convoy from this, this section to the literal other side of the Inner Sphere would be kind of noticeable. I'm actually really curious about the logistics. Also, anyone else Tex said was not actually interfering or interfered with by emotion or revenge, I would probably say bullshit. But every damn depiction of Kerensky shows someone who, even when he shouldn't, puts emotion to the side. For example, if he had just been a better role model, rather than a general, for a certain Lord Cameron, who probably should have also just been shot in the head as an early adult. Just throwing it out there. Yeah, things probably worked out better. But that's not Kerensky, which is also why I'm going to give Tex the credit on this one and say, yeah, no, I believe this. I don't believe Kerensky would be emotional about his decision to burn the fucker who just took his homeland and fucked over his entire point of being. I'm sure he got a vindictive thrill out of it, but he probably did also because it's just the most sensible choice.
To hit Amaris's home to cut Amaris off from his beloved Rimworld's Republic,
is it actually
its
beloved,
resources, and any hope
that.
of significant reinforcement. As well, if the gamble proves successful, this would utterly trap Amaris's forces in the hegemony, buying Kerensky time to maneuver, politic, and perhaps involve the rest of the Inner Sphere. Additionally, the income of the Rimworld's Republic.
Now that's interesting. I thought he was going to go it alone and basically let the inner houses sit back because they could fall on either side. But he actually wants to politic to get help. If not open, I'm guessing maybe just resources and, hey, we'll fuck over the guy who's technically saying you owe him one type resources. Yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, it actually does, unironically, too. They probably won't openly support him. I would be heavily surprised if any of the houses did that. But if they just happen to lose a shipment of ammunition, arms, food stuff that just happen to go missing in the path of your guys and they just happen to take it, I mean, that can't be helped. You're a marauding band of people who we don't want to fuck with. And if you just happen to take it with us counteracting you or saying anything about it, that just happens, yeah.
was exceptional, and by removing Amaris's purse strings even partially, he would make the inevitable throwdown in the hegemony far easier. Kerensky made
Operation Sleepy Weasel. Save SODF, question mark. Amaris mad. To be fair, step 3 already is completed, so it worked. But I love how he's talking about if you cut off the purse strings, it'll make the entire fight in the Airier, specifically hegemony, easier. Not just because the money's gone, but because his new base of operations is the place that he is beating down, that he is actively suppressing through means of you are so broken on the inside that you cannot rebel. Also, shit, these people are literally my only source of income and way to keep my army afloat. Before, the calculus was, I got my power base, this is my trophy. Now his trophy that he is fucking up out of sheer spite because Amaris is a dick. Also, there's probably strategic operations of, stop the rebellion. But whenever nukes become the first option, do you really need to worry about a rebellion when planets dying kind of doesn't matter? It's like, hey, look, this continent's not exactly happy at you. Is it rebelling? I don't know. Okay, well, you're not entirely sure. We're going to blow up this planet. Yeah. I know someone mentioned that hunger is the greatest way to provoke a rebellion, and I would say yes. 3 days of hunger is statistically proven. Sorry, not 3 days. 3 meals, not even 3 days. 3 meals missed of hunger is enough to provoke massive change and easily a rebellion among most people. I would say that if you take that to the extreme, though, when you don't go, like, yeah, I cannot speak today. When you don't just do 3 meals, but 3 months, 3 years of hunger, you are not capable of doing anything at that point but survive. It's not a matter of I want to fight back. It's a matter of I can't, because if I do anything other than survive, I die. That is an absolutely batshit extreme example, but it seems to be what Amaris is doing in a lot of worlds that he doesn't really care about. And it's probably the best part about the entire plan Kerensky's doing, because he's forcing Amaris to care about worlds he didn't before, because his power base is now on those worlds he didn't care about. I love this. Before, he didn't need to be nice. He didn't need to have any world actually be effective. It just needed to be a giant pile of, you ain't getting through this, which doesn't need to be a good planet. It just needs to be defensible, because he could get resources from other places. By cutting off that outside resource, he's cut down dramatically to just what he has in his own little fucked up location, which is still, the hegemony, but it's not as great as it would have been before he refucked it. I say refucked because the first fuck was him not killing the freaking Cameron Lord earlier. I am still hung up on that. I heard the rest of the Camerons are very nice. Fuck that one. That one in particular, who I will not name out of principle. And not just because I forgot his name, because I made sure to forget it. Because if I had done that, I'd be a lot more proud about that, because fuck that guy. Yeah.
His preparations. He told his men what they must do.
Oh, he actually let them know.
He visited ships throughout the fleet and mustered his forces from jump points around the periphery. He made certain to immediately change the ciphers and communications keys for his entire fleet.
Okay, if he didn't do that, I'd actually
he was certain SODF communications were totally compromised through Amaris's capture and control of the hegemony.
I mean, if you have the codes, you got the codes.
Orders were often hand-carried and eyes only. This would be an ambitious undertaking, and there was no room for error. Kerensky told his men and women that they would be launching on a grand campaign to restore Star League and stop Amaris. He gave appropriate speeches for morale's sake, reinforcing the purpose of his mission.
I mean, this
a great general, wasn't about revenge. This was about Star League. For as long as they lived, the dream was alive. They were soldiers and sailors and had work to do. Through this, he reminded the fleet of its duty. They had a mission. He also made moves to mitigate the supply shortfalls as best possible. His war plan hinged on the ability to forage what they needed from the Rimworld's Republic.
Yep.
To feed a conquest in essence,
you're beating down your enemy and you're taking their shit.
He ordered parts of his own forces, his own ships, his own mechs, his own tanks and stockpiles to be cannibalized for the war effort. He radically increased his operational equipment stockpile.
I have mixed feelings about this. On the one hand, it makes sense that you cannibalize what you have, and if you take it from the most beat up, that is just more difficult to repair, which admittedly was a significant proportion of their army, because they lost 10%, sorry, I think, was it 30% of their forces almost, which is absolutely catastrophic. So there's probably a lot of scrap around, and if they scrap that, and then maybe a few other ships that were not in perfect shape but just damaged, and use those as spare parts and as spare resources for the mechs, the ships, the guns, the ammunition, I guess that does increase their overall operational time, even if it does decrease the immediate force they can project. It's a trade-off, though, because on the other hand, while you might be able to fire longer, firing all the guns on the first round of any fight, when you have overwhelming firepower as your main and pretty much only advantage, in any other situation, I'd say that's the best option. It's not even a bad one here, but it really depends how the resource management worked out. Because their biggest advantage against Amaris right now is they still have an ungodly huge amount of everything. Even after catastrophic losses, their losses are still double what they're fighting against, if not more. I don't... It really does depend on if they can scavenge enough from the Rimworld's Republic to make up for the fact that they're scrapping their main advantage. I don't... I know there's probably a bunch of people like, well, it worked out. And honestly, I would be very surprised if it didn't. But if I didn't know that going forward, or if I'm wrong, this seems like a very big risk. Maybe a necessary one depending on how bad things are. And honestly, I don't really know the state of the army. Navy, fleet, the SLDF. Let's just go with the SLDF. But it could easily be a backfire opportunity because, again, you lose one of your main advantages.
Pile by eliminating the most damaged ships, mechs, and tanks, and strip those of parts
also,
to keep
how much
the rest going.
Like, are they only taking the ones they need to, or are they taking ones that
raided.
just aren't up to par?
Kerensky ordered sold what he didn't immediately need to war profiteers in the growing black market to keep the SLDF going.
Okay, so things like paper, extra supplies,
regiments into new
tax
combined
forms,
regimental
things that they just
combat
can't
teams.
use anymore. Yeah, that makes sense.
He consolidated his forces and
The
told them
bureaucratic
that they would
administration
conquer
offers,
the
but they don't
Rimworld
exist anymore, so you
Republic
can't
and
use
take it from Amaris before liberating the hegemony and restoring rightful order. Kerensky was not keen to make rapid strikes without proper intelligence. Cautiously, Kerensky assessed his situation, seeing what he was up against in the Rimworld's Republic. Through his intelligence services, Kerensky suspected and then became aware of clandestine dealings in the inner sphere. Kurita had been a staunch supporter.
Coordinator of the Draconis Company. Wait. Is he getting double dealings from Kurita, or is Kurita helping him? I'll probably hear that in a second. But more importantly, how many layers of pissed was he when he was like, so, what kind of intel do we have on the Republic? Followed by, oh, fuck, we had all this intel that we ignored saying that Amaris was doing this. Okay. Like, I'm sure there's probably a bunch of files he just got up, saw, were ignored by everyone, himself included, for literal decades, probably. Yeah, I wish Tex would cover that. I don't think he would, because it wouldn't really serve a purpose other than to be humorous. But goddamn, there has to be that moment of, okay, shit, we knew this was happening, and we ignored it. Yep.
Porter of Amaris and his dealings. Kerensky suspected that post-coup that arrangement was still in place.
Okay, so the Kurita is basically
House Merrick had extensively interfered with SLDF deployments during the Periphery War, and now, afterwards, were apathetic to the cause of
Duke of Atreus? Kenyon Merrick the Eagle! Captain General of the Free Worlds League. All I gotta say here is, I did just watch Dune. I'm just looking, hey, look, the Atrean Duke. Be a real shame if he was used as a failed assassination attempt on a rival Duke. Or got eaten by a sandworm, but didn't actually eat and led a rebellion to overthrow the Empire. I'm on a Dune kick right now. It's all I can think about. I have no hope. I am so lost.
the SLDF, to say the least. The source of that contention was personal animosity. Kerensky once had a young Kenyon Merrick on his general staff and checked his ambitions. And Merrick never forgot.
He seems like someone who should
These
be not alive.
complications meant that Kerensky could only possibly count on the other houses as, at best,
Is this why everyone
potential
hates Kurita and
allies.
Marek?
Even
Mostly
then,
Kurita?
their responses were not enthusiastic. But he knew
Not
they would
enthusiastic
at
is
least
better
not
than I
be
was actually hoping.
maneuvering against him, and the Periphery had an altogether more interesting response.
What?
The Periphery really didn't care the Cameron line had ended with a bang, even if the whereabouts and status of Richard Cameron were currently unknown to
Wait. How is their response interesting? Sorry, I know we're going to get to this, but just the sheer phrasing of that is actually very curious to me, because everyone else being not entirely enthusiastic is actually better than I was expecting. I was expecting, oh, thank you, we don't dislike you, but if we help you, it's under the cover of darkness. Actively, fuck you, because he is watching. I don't know why I'm doing an Eastern European accent. I don't know. I actually didn't even know I could do that one. That is impressive. Before anyone tells me I actually butchered it so absolutely horribly, that's insulting. Yeah. I'm just assuming it is at this point, because every accent I do seems to be insulting, including my American accent, which is just how I talk, but I've heard it sound stupid. But more importantly, the fact that he said it was an interesting response to the outreach. One, he reached out to the Periphery. That in its own right actually surprises me, considering Star League and the Periphery for a while now have been literally murderizing each other. I'm very surprised he would reach out to them. And the fact that their response could be summarized as interesting rather than, why are you asking us? Also, here are bullets in your head. Don't worry, they're free. We will shoot them at you. Any other response than that, anything that could be surprised or interesting, or how would they have any response other than fuck you? I literally do not know, and I'm absolutely curious. Not caring about the cameras really doesn't surprise me. Although I'm sure someone's like, oh, that's cool. Also, still fuck you. You see where I'm going on this one. I'm very curious how anything else could happen. Like, what happened in the background to poison them against Amaris so much? Because I don't think they love Star League. I really don't. So I'm very curious about the rest of it, though.
the galaxy at large. The populations of the Periphery did, however, care deeply when the SLDF showed up to fight a brutal war on their home turf. The SLDF had emboldened the Periphery's long-standing anti-authoritarian, anti-inner streak by showing up to be exactly what they feared most, conquering assholes. But when Amaris took over, the Periphery soon saw their savior really didn't care a single fuck about them all that much.
Oh god, they're actually... I was kind of wondering if they would go this way, but this is something most anything doesn't touch on. It's that you hate your enemy, but you hate the traitor even more because you trusted the traitor. I like this twist, and suddenly it makes a lot of my... Also, I just noticed it's a peace symbol with a gun. And a peace medallion with a gun. This definitely is the 80s art. I don't think anyone after the 80s would remember this symbol as something other than a bunch of hippies in really old beat up vans that haven't been worked on for like the last 30 years would wear. Yeah, this is definitely older art. But more importantly, I love this because it actually perfectly explains why they would have any response other than fuck you to the Star League. Because the Star League was always just the assholes they hated, but you knew where you stood with them. You hated them. But Amaris built them up. He was their guy up until they figured out, oh, no, he wasn't. We were the stepping stone because he just wanted to be the asshole in charge. And literally probably dumped them. So now they hate him probably even more. So it's not a matter of we don't want to fuck you over. We would love if you got to go fuck yourself. But we want this guy fucked more. That actually makes perfect sense. It's even completely rational.
Amaris had issued orders for Kerensky to conquer the Periphery, to keep pressure on them, to crush them
and
once
they knew
and for
about
all,
Amaris
and then to
that.
join Amaris's new empire.
Yep.
Upon realizing they were sold out, the Periphery was upset.
A bit.
For the Periphery had once at least somewhat trusted Amaris. After all, he was one of them. The Rimworld Republic was the greatest Periphery nation.
Okay, Taurus Concordat. Don't know. And... Trojan? No, sorry, Greek? I'd go Jason ship, but whatever. That's weird. More importantly, I think everything we just heard probably explains why Kerensky would even think about an Exodus plan whenever all of this somehow goes horribly, horribly wrong. I don't know. I assume he kills Amaris somehow and things just don't go well from there. I don't know, but the fact that he even got any response from the periphery is probably why he's starting to think outside of the inner sphere. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is the beginning of that plan, even if it's not actually a plan and more just the stirrings of, hey, maybe if we got away, things would change. I don't know. It's just my initial thought that seems to be where that would head. Like that line of thinking would be based on interactions right now.
After all, he was the nice fat guy who'd given them shitloads of money and weapons and pointed them at the SLDF, and now they realized they'd been played.
Yep.
The periphery was now content to let Amaris deal with his own problems and let the SLDF leave uncontested.
And they will gladly let the SLDF fuck him over,
their own and
uncontested.
gain perhaps, at least notionally, their independence. They were content to let things be. After this point, the periphery would offer no substantial opposition for Kerensky's new goal, to wrecking ball the Rimworld's Republic.
Is they're probably
in fact,
okay with
many
us.
periphery states met with the general and provided him full transcripts, intelligence, and information on Amaris' duplicity and dealings. This information would make Kerensky's conquest.
I'm sorry, don't want to hit the mic. They offered him full transcripts. If that includes their records of when he moved anything through their space, just transferred through because of jump capacities and where they had to go through, that right there is such a tactical advantage. I mean, I'm absolutely certain Amaris knows exactly what Kerensky has because he has the literal home where everything about what he had was stored in records. So, Amaris already knows. But everything Amaris did was secret, heavily secret, and hidden from anyone like Kerensky who would realize, oh, fuck, what we're looking at. And here, he's being given all of the intel he wished he had earlier, but it's still useful to him now. Physical aid is useful. Don't get me wrong. That's great, but they might get that from the Rimworld. I'm assuming they get a lot of it. But this right here, the fact that the periphery they probably just fucked Amaris so much harder than he ever thought they would because he probably didn't care. I mean, he literally just betrayed them. He probably literally never even considered that Kerensky would talk to them, let alone that they would talk back or give him something of so much. Just the sheer intelligence value alone of knowing your enemy's movements, how they've behaved, what they've done, where they got their materials, what kind of materials they are, what kind of movements were there, what they've talked about. And again, if they just gave him all full transcripts, I'm assuming that would also include their transcripts of seeing where the enemy's movements occurred and what was making up that component of force. That gives such an advantage because you know what you're looking at. I mean, not to the extent of what's been changed on Terra, but the extent of the best troops are going to be the ones that were already brought in. And that's... Sorry, I'm a little blown away by just how powerful that is as a resource. That's amazing, and I did not expect it to go that way.
Quests all the smoother. Kerensky jumped on the Rimworld's Republic with a slightly rejuvenated SLDF, and in time,
even some rejuvenation on the Force that big is huge.
Of legend. Ooh. While Amaris had
taken
the bulk of his military to occupy the hegemony, the Rimworld's Republic was not a complete pushover as far as the periphery states went.
But
after all, this was the place that Amaris had forged into a conquering nation-state. It was a nation built by a paranoid, psychotic asshole. House Amaris.
I would just like to point out that normally, if this was prior to the invasion, I think I would give the Rimworld's Republic a pretty good chance because they built up a huge army and everything Tech just said. But the best of their best literally just went to take Terra. And they needed it because if they took anything else, Amaris probably would have been dead and would have failed because a bunch of crazy bastards and kills would have won. Good for them. Almost winning. And technically still winning because they got that one Cameron out, maybe more, don't really know. Yeah, from what I've been told, that's never come up again in the lore. Ever. Kind of annoying that. Until they eventually say, yeah, we just made a new dynasty somewhere else. I fully expect that to happen. I wonder how much he actually
Amaris
left
had
behind.
primed this nation for war at every level through generations of careful work to further their strategic aims.
But
it maintained a reasonable standing army by periphery standards. It possessed a ruthlessly efficient internal security force,
Okay, that
a
makes
tremendous strategic reserve, a well-educated population, and a massive defense industry. Taking the Rimworld's Republic was the smartest choice Kerensky could make. Taking it would cut Amaris off from extensively developed defense industry and ample recruiting grounds, not to mention
that were
a
actually
key
loyal to him,
source
unlike
of
Terran.
income. On May 29, Kerensky issued the go order from his flagship McKenna's Pride. The fleet assembled at jump points, messages being hand-carried with new ciphers to ensure security. Across the periphery, forces abandoned their...
Sorry, I love the fact that this is part of the lore that I'm pretty sure is older. Maybe in the 90s to the 2000s. I'm not really sure when this part came out, but the entire concept of taking messages by hand is such an old one when your lines are down that I actually just want to highlight this. Because this is a super high-tech, very forward-thinking, very much militaristic and technologically advanced civilization fucking each other over. So when you want to do that and you know your lines are down, the safest and probably easiest way to do it is write the cipher and write it in person and have it hand delivered in person. Because yes, while the enemy could intercept the person, it's so much easier to intercept something when you have the codes already electronically. I love how one of the oldest forms of spycraft and information distribution, literally having a courier, it makes reasonable sense in such a far-flung future where technology is ungodly levels. It's cool seeing how this bit of old craft is still useful, and it makes sense. I love that aspect.
Conquest rejoined the main fleet, often carrying with them the contents of SLDF bases they'd stripped for necessary supplies.
Oh, so they found extras.
Troops falling back set nasty reminders that Starlink property was not to be trifled with. Concordat troops found that out the hard way.
Oh, so like
when
Concordat is
upon
still
entering the
aggressive.
Starlink base had collapsed on their head after a mountain of charges went off.
Nice.
Similarly, across the periphery, Starlink bases were abandoned, trapped, and stripped of any and all resources Kerensky would need for his operation. This was an all-or-nothing gambit. Amaris had slowly bled the Rimworld Republic forces of their strength to set up his coup and occupation of the hegemony. It would still be a monumental endeavor.
This is the part I was waiting for. Just that little clarification that Amaris took the bulk of his strength, the bulk of the army, the best of the best. I love just this little indication of it because it definitely had to have happened that way. I just love this because it does show the reality of while Amaris is being very smart about this, it just shows that he wasn't really planning beyond success. I don't know how much he planned ahead, but his plan definitely seems a lot more lazy here. Almost like, you know the meme of, well, I didn't actually think I'd get this far. Plankton from SpongeBob saying that when he actually gets a Krabby Patty. It's basically that level of, oh, I won. I definitely won. I would always win. I didn't plan what comes next. Oh, all the nukes? Yeah. I just love that you could see that bit of it breaking down because he didn't go this far.
The Republic was enormous and well-provisioned, and while the Rimworld's Republic had dug in, they didn't have the numbers the SLDF massed fleet had.
Yep.
Every delay in attack would buy time for Amaris to fortify the Rimworld's Republic and hegemony both. Any other commander would have opted for speed alone in a campaign of nuclear hellfire and motherfucking revenge.
But they
Any
want
other commander
the resources.
would have let his men and women loose in the name of vengeance to let slip the dogs of war and count the dead afterward. But Kerensky was not a monster. He refused to authorize a total war approach.
Also, and I know I've said this a few times already, but if you lose the resources, you have no way to win the war. It's not just that you lose, it's that it becomes impossible to win. Which sounds like losing, but also could just be a very long, drawn-out stalemate. But more importantly, this right here, I mean, this method of we're not going to go full out, we're going to do as minimal approach, reasonably minimal, so we can get the, not do the genocide. I know, Battletech, weird. But more importantly, the resources are preserved, which is what they're doing this entire thing for. I'm sure they like their revenge, but it's for the resources they can get from doing it. I just love how this is basically a precursor line of thinking to the entire clan philosophy of hyper competent but very minimalized warfare, usually for resource exchange. And you can just see the precursors of an entire plot line of Battletech based on just this. It's just so cool. I love going back in time and seeing what a later plot line developed from, because it makes sense here. A lot of other shows, fictional universes, manga, anime, video games, take your pick. They don't do this that well. The Battletech has so much thought put into it. I love just plumbing the depths of all the different connecting plot threads here, how they do have logical conclusions to questions we didn't know were asked before. Because at the present time, it's like, okay, this is what they're like. Kind of stupid, but makes sense in its own fucked up way. And then here's the thought where it's like, no, this makes sense in context, and moving forward, I can see how it gets to that over time. I just love this. It's probably one of my favorite things about Battletech.
Saved weapons of mass destruction for hardened military targets.
Yep.
But it would still be a war. There would be casualties. Kerensky took a careful approach, trying at his hardest to not indiscriminately slaughter his enemies for the sake of a decisive, rapid campaign. He didn't see the Rimworld's Republic as an enemy, merely, in this case, an adversary. He saw his job as to restore the peace from an unlawful usurper, not to punish a population or conquer purely defeat his army.
He had to have failed somehow.
Further, Kerensky knew he had to crush the Rimworld's Republic to strand Amaris in the hegemony, to cut Amaris off from the resources of the Rimworld's Republic and prevent a difficult two-front war. Amaris flipped out at the impending invasion and almost immediately called on his hidden army in the form of formerly loyal periphery allies to assist.
Oh, you stupid son of a bitch. This is literally the consequences of your own actions coming back to bite you. Formerly loyal, my ass. They were loyal to you up until you weren't to them. That's not even... I love this, because they just went over the entire thing about how they hate Amaris now, and Kerensky's taking advantage of it because they, he was their enemy, but they had no qualms with him betraying them because they never thought he was on their side. But fuck this guy! And now they are, and I love this because it's proof that he didn't think this part through. Amaris is a genius. I'm going to completely throw that out there. But every step of the way, up until he killed Richard Cameron, every step of the way, he planned out to the best of his ability. Maybe not always perfectly, but it was so damn good that he actually could succeed. But this is such a telling moment that you could see where the limits of his planning ended. He didn't think they would betray him in the periphery because he didn't think that part out. He didn't think what it would look like if he abandoned them, which led to the problems with the periphery. He didn't think Kerensky would take anything from him. He thought he had an unassailable position in multiple locations and ignored the fact that he literally took his forces and split them, leaving the bulk in one location that became unassailable almost, but weakening the other because he didn't think that. And the fact that he flipped out proves he wasn't thinking that could happen, because he wouldn't have flipped out. He would just plan for it, like everything else he did. But he didn't think this far, and I love it. I love seeing this. It's just, they don't even need to say he didn't plan for this. They're showing he didn't plan for it. That's just brilliant writing. I love this. And I love how Tex is presenting it. It's literally in the most amusing and schadenfreude way possible. Watching Amaris get mad is literally putting a smile on my face more than anything else at all. We haven't even got to the crazy mech battles yet, and I'm just loving this back and forth between the characters and their ploys and how their actions are impacting things going forward. This is just great. Basically, I'm having fun. And that was the next part of the Amaris Civil War by Tex Talks Battletech. I'm really liking where this is going. I like seeing the interplay. I like seeing some of the surprising interactions that, while I wouldn't expect them going forward, because I should expect realistic interpretations of how people act, good and bad, but I'm so trained by fiction not to expect these things to actually be a possibility that I didn't even think of this as a twist. Sorry, I'm still stuck on the periphery actually helping because of a very obvious and well thought out reason. I love this. And I just, between that, showing Amaris's planning not going this far, there's so many aspects of this I absolutely love. The more I hear about this, the more I'm glad I started collecting Battletech models. I mean, I got a few of the official ones from Catalyst Games, and honestly, yeah, I really like them. I also have a few 3D printed ones that are sold on eBay, and they're honestly freaking amazing. I didn't realize 3D printing could actually look that good, but goddamn does it. Now I just need to find someone in the southwestern PA area who actually plays Battletech and also doesn't work on my days off. That last one actually turned out to be a bigger issue than I thought. Yeah. Gotta fix that up. All the same, you guys know the deal. Blink, low. You pressed it already because it's Battletech? Because it's the Black Pants Legion? Hey, I actually said it right the first time. Nice. It's Tex? You did? Great. Because, you should. Because it's awesome. And you did. Good to hear this. As you can tell, I'm still really psyched. I'll see you guys in the next one. Or more likely, I'll just go rewatch the next one right away because I'm just really going to take a break to get something to drink and then I'm going to probably come right back because this is freaking awesome, man. All the same, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.